The mini bosses from Super Paper Mario are honestly pretty garbage. The lineup of them is just trash. They're not good at all, they're extremely easy, but there's just 12 of them, and 4 of them are chunk fights. These bosses lack in variety, which is just so disappointing. So instead of ranking every single mini boss, all 12 of them, I'm just going to be ranking 6 of them, and here's how it works. I'm going to be taking each repeatable boss fight, like Chunks, Dementio, and only picking the best version of each fight and ranking that. I will be talking about each fight on the list, but I'm only going to be ranking that specific best boss fight. So because of that, it's only going to be 6 bosses that we're going to be ranking. And of course, I am still trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before summer break hits, so if you could please subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. And if you know a Mario RPG fan, tell that person to subscribe, of course, I'd also appreciate that. But I'm not going to hold you guys back anymore. Let's get started on this video. Chunks is just such a repetitive boss. You fight him 4 times. 4 times out of the 12 mini bosses in this game. 1 out of 3 mini bosses is Chunks, which is just so repetitive. And that's exactly how I felt when I was getting to 5-4 and 8-1, even though those are probably the best Chunk fights. And did you even remember that there was an Chunks fight in 5-2? Because I didn't. I just completely forgot that there was one. And I was looking at the Super Mario Wiki, seeing that there was 2 Chunk fights in Chapter 5. I was so confused, and then I looked at the footage, and yeah, there's just a random Chunks fight in 5-2. And it's extremely forgettable. It's not even that much different from the first one that you fight. Especially because the one in 5-4 is just so much better. And that's the thing about Chunks. He's just the basic, repeatable boss. And that's all he is to me. Because of that, it just gets really tiring fighting him, just because he's so basic. I don't think Chunks is a bad fight, and I do think, again, later in the game, he does get more unique, but how he is, how tiring he is, it just lands him at number 6 automatically. The set of Bowser fights is so weird because I dislike one of them quite a bit, but I actually enjoy the other one quite a bit as well. So let's talk about the one I dislike because it's the first time you fight Bowser in 3-1. I think it's unique that you have to take him out of the castle and blow the castle up. I think that's pretty cool. But the fight itself is just not enjoyable because there's no distinct tell to use Boomer. And that's the way to defeat him. You have to either use items or use your Pixel Boomer. And this is kind of like with Robot L-Type, but I'm not going to talk about that fight. You can click the info card to see the chapter boss ranking for Super Paper Mario, if you actually want to see my opinion on Robot L-Type. Secret, I don't actually like the fight at all. But for this Bowser fight as well, I don't like it because there's no clear way to actually tell that you need to use Boomer. But when you go on to the second fight with Bowser, that's much more enjoyable. Because 1, you know that you can use Boomer. 2, you have Kudge, and 3, you have Carry, which means you have 3 different options to defeat Bowser, and it just gets a more unique experience every single time you use one. I think using Kudge is the most enjoyable because it does the most damage, but it has very little range, where Bowser has a ton of range with his damage. So it's very fun, and it actually becomes a very intense fight. But because the first Bowser fight is so lackluster compared to the really enjoyable one in 7-2, I think it just averages out to being okay. But at the very least, it's not tiring, so it deserves to be number 5, not any lower. Big Blooper is 1 out of 2 boss battles that you don't repeatedly fight. And let's just say I'm glad that you don't repeatedly fight this boss, because if you did, it would be at number 5, or maybe even number 6. This boss is so slow. All it does is raise its red tentacle up for you to breathe fire. And that's it. That's all it does, and you just wait for it. The blue tentacles don't even try to swing to attack you. Nothing. It just waits. It just waits, and all you're doing is waiting. It's a slow fight. There's no actual intensity. The theme is okay. I like it a bit. There's just nothing to this fight. The only good thing I can actually say that goes to this fight is that it's a good use for Bowser. You just got Bowser last level, and you just have to use him to breathe fire on the red tentacle. So it works in that regard, but only that regard. That's the only thing that's actually good about this fight. Other than that, this fight is extremely easy. It's not bad, and you don't have to fight it more than once. That's why it's at number 4, but it's just not that good. Just a quick disclaimer before this segment starts, Mimi from Chapter 2 does not count as a mini-boss because it's the chapter boss of that chapter. Mainly because there's no other bosses in Chapter 2. But for this list, it's only going to be counting Chapter 6-2 and Chapter 8-2. But if we're combining those two fights, I think it just equals to having decent setup. I actually think that the Mimi boss from Chapter 6 is really disappointing. Not because it's a bad fight, not at all. It's just really easy, like extremely easy, like 2-second defeat easy. All you have to do is start with Bowser, hold down the down button before the fight starts, and you hold down fire, you burn Mimi, she's dead. You have to hit her twice if you have a big enough power stat. 2 seconds for a mini boss. That's so disappointing. It's probably the easiest mini boss in all of Super Paper Mario, which is so sad. But then you go to Chapter 8-2 with Mimi boss. And that one works much better. Since you can only use Peach, it gets much harder, because her attacks are just naturally harder to dodge with Peach. It's probably the easiest to dodge with Mario, because you can flip, but you can't do that here. And also, I just like how Mimi deals with you attacking her. You first stun her, and then you have to remove one of her legs. And the more legs you remove, the faster she gets, and it gets really difficult to hit her. So I really enjoy Mimi here. But the combination of just 6-2 having such an easy fight has to make it only decent and landed at number 3. I do enjoy the one from Chapter 8-2, but it definitely gets held back. Dementio just has one thing that all the other mini-bosses don't have. He's actually somewhat difficult, even compared to some of the other bosses. Not mini-bosses, actual bosses in the game, he's not that easy, which is such a breath of fresh air. I really like the Dementio fight for that reason alone. Well, both Dementio fights. And speaking of both Dementio fights, I actually enjoy the first fight in Chapter 3-3 over the one in 8-3, even though that one is way less memorable. The reason why I enjoy the one in 3-3 more, though, is because you don't always get the chance to attack him. He's sometimes just too high in the air. But with 8-3, you're fighting him with Luigi, so you can just charge down and shoot him up easily because of it. So because of that, I think that the one in 3-3 is better, even though both of them are very good. There's just a lot of projectiles on the screen when you're fighting him, and he splits into copies, which just makes it more enjoyable, which also means more projectiles. So because of this, I really do enjoy Dementio's fights, but it never was gonna get number 1. I mean, you guys know exactly what the number 1 is, come on. The Underchomp, aka the only good thing about Chapter 7. I really enjoy the Underchomp, but it's not for the reasons that you might be thinking. Now yes, the RPG elements are cool, but I don't like them for being RPG elements. I just like them for being unique. No, the reason I actually enjoy this fight is because it's somewhat difficult. First off, there's 3 chain chomps instead of just 1. So that means that you're going to be attacked 3 times and you can't actually block it. And sometimes you can get poisoned, which sucks. So because of that, you're getting a lot of damage dealt to you during this fight. And also, you don't have much ways to heal. You only have the items that you brought into battle with you, which sometimes you won't even know. I also enjoy all the options with each pixel. That's really enjoyable. Some of them can just raise your evasiveness, someone can cure your poison, some of them can just do a lot of damage. All of them are really enjoyable. Also, you can use all your other characters, like Bowser, Mario, and Luigi, with unique effects. I really enjoy the Underchomp. Thank you guys for watching this video. My next video will be on the 1,000-year door, and if you're not subscribed yet, and you lasted this long, please subscribe. Again, I am still trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before summer break hits, so if you could subscribe, or even tell a friend that's into the Mario RPGs, I'd really appreciate that. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.